Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive.
Yeah.
Today, we're going to be looking into a Protestant Reformed church denomination
Okay.
and basically a situation that just spiraled.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, out of control. And
It sounds juicy.
it is. We've got accusations, we've got protests, we've got the postponement of a Lord's Supper.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
So we've got a stack of letters here, committee reports, minutes from church meetings.
Lots to unpack.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Yeah.
So where do we even begin with all of this?
Well, at the heart of it all
Okay.
is this couple, Brandon and Alana Oostra, and they face these accusations, and it just really shook the foundation of their church community.
Yeah, I mean, I was skimming through some of these documents and just the accusations alone. I mean,
Straight serious.
blackmail and embezzlement,
Yeah.
especially in a church context, like that's
That's heavy stuff.
yeah, that's intense.
And it's really interesting. The fallout from these accusations is what makes the story so compelling because it wasn't just about them.
Right.
It kind of pulled in this elder, Henry Camps, who ended up being deposed from his position.
Yeah, that's right. Elder Camps. His name pops up a lot in all of these documents.
Yeah.
He seemed to be a staunch defender of this couple,
He did.
but that ultimately led to his downfall.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of a story of how this, what seemed to be a straightforward disciplinary matter, became this battle over authority, loyalty, and the limits of personal conviction within a church community.
Okay, so let's back up a little bit. You mentioned that they were facing these accusations.
Yeah.
Where did those even come from? Like what?
Well, so the accusations stemmed from the Oostra's involvement with a previous church, Sovereign Reformed Protestant Church,
Okay.
and this church disbanded back in December of 2023.
Okay.
So there was some, baggage before they even came to First Reformed Protestant Church.
Gotcha.
And so a key figure in all of this is this guy named Dylan Altina, and he served as an office bearer in that previous church. And during the disbanding process, he was responsible for dispersing the church's funds, and that's when he made the accusations against the Oostras.
So Dylan is the one who brought the charges of blackmail and embezzlement.
That's correct, yeah.
Wow.
And this is where it gets interesting. When the Oostras sought membership at First Reformed Protestant Church,
Okay.
Dylan followed them, and he actually tried to bring his charges before the new church.
It sounds like he was determined to see this through.
He was. I mean, he was very persistent.
Yeah.
And so First RPC, what they did was they formed a committee.
Okay.
It was called the Altena Oostra Committee to
Uh-huh.
investigate. And this committee actually recommended that First RPC just stay out of the whole matter
Right.
because it originated in a different church.
It's not our problem.
Right, exactly. Like, why get involved in someone else's mess?
Right.
But that wasn't the end of it.
Oh, no. I'm sensing this is just the beginning.
This is just the first domino. Despite the committee's recommendation, the consistory, which you can think of as the governing body of the local church,
Okay.
they ultimately voted against staying out of it.
So they decided to get involved.
They did, yeah.
Why? What was the reason?
The documents that we have don't really provide a clear reason
Oh, yeah.
for the consistory's change of heart.
Interesting.
But what we do know is after a lot of deliberation,
Okay.
the Oostras were officially accepted as members of First RPC on July 17th, 2024.
So they let them in despite the accusations.
It did, yeah.
Case closed. End of story.
You would think so, right? But this is where Elder Camps enters the picture and things take a very sharp turn.
Okay, so Elder Camps, now we're finally bringing him into the mix.
Yes.
What was his initial reaction to all of this?
Well, from what we can gather from the documents, Elder Camps was a vocal supporter of the Oostras right from the get-go.
Okay.
He believed that the accusations against them were unfounded and that they were being unjustly targeted.
So he was on their side.
He was, yeah.
Interesting. Interesting.
And his defense went beyond just, voicing his opinion.
Okay.
He actually wrote what he called a study report
Okay.
that aimed to refute the accusations and clear their names.
A study report. That sounds pretty official.
It does sound very official, but it wasn't actually endorsed by the church.
Oh, okay.
And it actually ended up being a major point of contention.
How so?
The consistory deemed it inappropriate, and it was later repudiated.
What was so controversial about it? Did it have new information in it, or was it just his opinion?
Well, it seems like the study report went beyond just defending the Oostras.
Okay.
It actually contained accusations against Reverend Langerak, who had initially objected to the Oostras' membership.
Wait, so he's defending them by accusing the reverend who spoke out against them?
Precisely.
Oh, wow. This is getting messy.
Yeah, this is where it gets really complicated.
Yeah.
And as you can imagine, this created a huge rift within the church.
Right.
It pitted camps against not just the reverend,
Right.
but also against the consistory who had already made their decision.
Yeah, this sounds like a total power struggle.
It does.
It seems like he's challenging their authority.
And you got to remember, the consistory is the governing body of the church.
Right.
And by publicly challenging their decision and accusing a reverend,
Yeah.
he was stepping way outside the bounds of his role as an elder.
So I'm guessing the consistory was not happy.
Not pleased.
What was their response to all of this?
Well, they saw his actions as insubordinate,
Okay.
a threat to the unity and order of the church.
So things are escalating.
Yeah.
We've got accusations against this couple. We've got this elder defending them. Then the elder accuses a reverend. And now the consistory is involved.
It's a lot.
It is a lot.
Yeah.
So where do we go from here?
Well, this is where the situation takes a dramatic turn.
Okay.
Not even a month after the Oostras were accepted as members,
Okay.
the consistory made a shocking decision. They rescinded their membership.
Whoa, hold on. They went from accepting them to kicking them out.
They did, yeah.
What happened? What made them change their minds so drastically?
Well, the fallout from Camps's actions was significant.
Okay.
Reverend Langerak, if you remember.
Right. He was the one who protested against the Oostras.
He protested from the beginning, and then after the accusations against him from Camps,
Yeah.
he refused to preach at First RPC until the whole matter was resolved.
So the Reverend was on strike.
Essentially, yeah.
Wow.
And he wasn't the only one voicing his concerns.
Really?
We also have a record of another protest from Bob and Katie Burkett.
Yeah.
Although we don't know the specific details of their protest,
Gotcha.
but it's clear there was this growing wave of dissent within the church.
So the consistory had a lot of pressure on them.
They did, yeah.
Did they respond to these protests?
They did.
Okay.
Initially, they defended their decision to accept the Oostras,
Yeah.
and they tried to kind of downplay the concerns raised by Reverend Langerak and the Burketts. But it was clear the situation was far from resolved.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, you've got protests mounting. You've got elder camps digging in his heels. It sounds like this is headed for a major confrontation.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so what happens next?
Well, the tension was just palpable,
Okay.
and it all came to a head in a very public and symbolic way.
I am on the edge of my seat.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what happened.
So to understand what happened next,
Okay.
we need to understand a little bit about the role of church services and rituals
Like it.
in the Protestant Reformed tradition.
All right, this is where I might need a little help because I'm not super familiar with all of that.
No problem.
Why is a church service so significant in all of this?
So in the Protestant Reformed Church, the church service, especially the Lord's Supper,
Okay.
it's deeply sacred.
Okay.
It's a time of spiritual unity and fellowship.
Okay.
However, in this case, the conflict surrounding the Oostras and elder camps had created this deep sense of division within the church.
Right, so it's like the church service becomes a symbol of their fractured community.
Exactly. And it
Yeah.
was during one of these services that the conflict between elder camps and the consistory reached its boiling point.
All right, I need the climax of the story now. What happened during this church service?
So picture this.
Okay.
During the service, after a sermon was delivered by the minister about the consistory's sin,
Okay.
elder camps, in a very public display of defiance, refused to shake the minister's hand.
He refused to shake his hand. That doesn't seem like a big deal.
Well, in most contexts, you might be right. But within the Protestant Reformed Church, this gesture carries immense symbolic weight.
Really? I didn't know that. Why was a handshake so significant?
Refusing to shake the minister's hand after a sermon was seen as a public rejection of his authority,
Oh.
a display of schism, a blatant disregard for the unity of the church.
So this was a huge statement.
It was a symbolic declaration of dissent that could not be ignored.
So basically a deliberate act of rebellion against the church leadership.
Precisely. And it was the final straw for the consistory.
Oh, no, they were not going to let that slide.
They were not happy.
What did they do?
They responded swiftly and decisively.
Yeah, okay.
They immediately moved to suspend Elder Camps for his actions.
Suspended. So that's like
Yeah.
he's removed from his position?
Initially, yes.
Okay.
The suspension was temporary while they considered further action.
Okay.
But given the severity of his actions and his continued defiance, it was clear that this wasn't going to just blow over.
Right. So what ends up happening to him? Does he apologize or does it get worse?
Well, the situation unfortunately did not de-escalate.
Okay.
Camps continued to defend his actions and refused to acknowledge the authority of the consistory,
Okay.
and this ultimately led to his deposition by the Joint Council.
And what's the Joint Council?
It's essentially a higher governing body within the denomination
Gotcha.
that handles these kinds of disputes.
So he was permanently removed from his position.
That's essentially what happened.
Right.
And it may seem like an extreme outcome,
Yeah.
but within the context of the Protestant Reformed Church's beliefs and practices, his actions really represented a fundamental breach of trust and unity.
It's wild how it went from, accusations against a couple to a full-blown power struggle and the deposition of an elder.
It is.
It's only just scratched the surface.
They have.
Where do we go from here?
Well, this whole situation,
Yeah.
as dramatic as it is actually not unique.
Really?
It actually echoes a similar case from 1953,
Oh, wow.
which also involved disputes over church membership and discipline.
So history is repeating itself.
It seems like it does, especially within church communities.
Oh, man, this is fascinating. So we're going to dive into another historical case of church drama.
We are.
I'm ready. Give me all the details.
All right, so this 1953 case really reveals that these conflicts over church discipline and membership,
Okay.
they're not new in the Protestant Reformed denomination.
All right.
It's a story about a church trying to assert its independence and the consequences that followed.
Okay, set the stage for me. Who are we dealing with? What's the conflict?
All right, picture this. 1953, the Southeast Protestant Reformed Church
Oh,
receives a request for membership from a family, the Dozimas.
okay.
Seems straightforward, right?
Yeah, so far.
There's a but.
There's a but.
Okay.
The Duzimas were under discipline from another church, the Creston Protestant Reformed Church.
Oh, boy. That complicates things.
It does.
Yeah.
And the Southeast Church's decision to accept them without consulting the Creston Church
Uh-oh.
really ignited a firestorm of controversy.
I bet. So how did the Creston Church react to this?
Let's just say they didn't hold back.
Okay.
They accused the Southeast Church of violating their unity, even of trampling underfoot the proper procedures
Oh, wow.
for handling disciplinary matters.
So it was more than just hurt feelings.
Oh, absolutely.
They felt like there were rules that were broken.
They felt like their shared denominational rules were completely violated.
Gotcha.
It was a matter of principle for them.
Okay. To uphold the established order within the denomination.
And what did they want the Southeast Church to do?
They wanted them to reverse their decision and acknowledge their wrongdoing.
So did the Southeast Church back down?
They did not budge.
Right.
They maintained that they had the autonomy to make their own decisions
Yeah.
about membership.
So they're basically saying, mind your own business.
Pretty much, yeah.
Wow.
And this fueled this back and forth exchange of letters.
Okay.
Each side was just digging in their heels
Wow.
and refusing to compromise.
So it sounds like we've got two churches that are at odds with each other,
Yes.
each convinced that they're in the right, and they're not talking.
Not really.
So this could get ugly.
It definitely has the potential.
So what happened? Was there any attempt at a compromise?
Well, not directly between the two churches.
Okay.
The conflict eventually escalated to Classis East.
Okay. And who is Classis East?
So it's like a regional council or governance body within the Protestant Reformed denomination.
So they bring in the higher-ups to try and settle this.
Exactly.
Okay, what did Classis East say?
Initially, they advised the Southeast Church to rescind its decision and respect the disciplinary actions of the Creston Church.
Okay.
They stressed the importance of unity
Right.
and following the proper procedures.
So it sounds like a reasonable solution.
It does.
Did the Southeast Church listen to their advice?
Unfortunately, no.
They didn't.
They didn't.
Why?
They were convinced they were right.
Oh, boy.
And they refused to comply with Classis East's recommendation.
They're going against the higher-ups.
They are.
That's bold. What were the consequences of that?
Well, their defiance had serious ramifications. The conflict deepened, and eventually, a significant portion of the Southeast congregation, including their minister, chose to leave the Protestant Reformed Church entirely.
They left.
They left.
Wow, over this.
It just highlights how deep these issues of church discipline and autonomy can run.
Yeah.
For them, it was a matter of principle, standing up for their beliefs,
Yeah.
their right to govern their own church.
Wow. So this internal church conflict had some pretty big consequences.
It did.
It's really interesting. Hearing this 1953 case,
Yeah.
it sounds a lot like the current situation with the Oostras and elder camps.
The parallels are definitely undeniable.
Yeah.
Both situations highlight the potential for division,
Yeah.
even schism,
Right.
when personal convictions clash with established procedures and the authority of the broader church community.
Yeah. It seems like this is an ongoing issue
It does seem that way.
within the Protestant Reformed Church.
Yeah.
So what are some key takeaways from this 1953 case, especially considering what's happening now?
Well, one key takeaway is the importance of communication and consultation.
Okay.
If the Southeast Church had engaged in open dialogue with the Creston Church and Classes East,
Okay.
perhaps they could have found a way to resolve the issue without causing a schism.
So better communication could have prevented a whole mess.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah.
Transparency, respect for the opinions of others,
Okay.
a willingness to compromise,
Yeah.
these are crucial in these situations.
Right.
Ignoring these principles can lead to division and distrust, as we've seen in both of these cases.
Right. So it sounds like you're advocating for a more collaborative approach to church governance
I think so. Yeah.
rather than just churches operating as these isolated entities.
Yeah, because in the Protestant Reformed Church,
Yeah.
while individual churches have autonomy in certain areas,
Right.
they are also part of this larger denominational structure with shared beliefs and practices.
So it's like finding a balance between autonomy and unity,
Exactly.
which can be tricky.
It can be very tricky, and
Yeah.
finding that balance requires wisdom, humility,
Yeah.
and a commitment to upholding the church order, which is essentially the set of rules and guidelines
Okay.
that govern the denomination.
Got it.
So it's not just about saying, we're independent, we can do what we want.
Mm.
There is a structure in place.
Sure. Okay, so we've got communication, respect for the broader church structure.
Yeah.
Anything else we can learn from this 1953 case?
Well, the 1953 case, just like the Oostra camp situation, really highlights the complexities of individual conscience.
Yeah, because in both cases, it seemed like they were really acting according to their beliefs,
They were.
even though those beliefs went against the established order.
Exactly.
So how do you balance individual conscience with submission to authority?
That's the million-dollar question,
It is.
and it has no easy answer.
Yeah, no kidding.
But perhaps by examining these historical precedents, we can gain a better understanding of the complexities
Right.
and find ways to navigate these challenging situations with more grace and wisdom.
I like that. So we've looked at the accusations, we've looked at Elder Camps's actions, and now we've got this fascinating historical parallel.
Yeah.
Seems like we're starting to piece together a bigger picture here.
We are, and this bigger picture really reveals this tension that's been present within the Protestant Reformed Church for generations.
What kind of tension?
The tension between individual conscience and the authority of the church,
Right.
between the desire for autonomy
Okay.
and the need for unity.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that probably exists in every church community to some degree, right?
I think so, yeah.
But it seems particularly pronounced in the Protestant Reformed Church, with its emphasis on church order and discipline.
Absolutely.
This has been really insightful.
Yeah.
I feel like we've uncovered historical parallels, explored some complex theological issues, and just gained a deeper understanding of the Protestant Reformed Church's structure and beliefs.
We've done a lot.
Yeah, we have. Where do we go from here?
Well, we're not done yet.
Oh, good. I was hoping you'd say that.
There's still more to unpack as we delve further into the implications of these cases and what they can teach us about navigating similar situations in our own churches and communities.
I'm ready. Lead the way.
Okay, so let's talk about reconciliation. We've seen how these situations can lead to division, even schism, like in that 1953 case.
Right.
But what about the possibility of, healing? Is there room for that in these kinds of conflicts?
That's a good question. What do you think?
Well, I think it all hinges on the willingness of everyone involved
Okay.
to engage in open and honest dialogue,
Okay.
listen to each other's perspectives,
Yeah.
and to seek a resolution that upholds both truth and unity.
So it's not about who's right or wrong.
Right.
It's about finding a way to move forward together,
Exactly.
even when there's disagreement.
And that requires commitment to grace,
Yeah.
forgiveness,
Right.
and a willingness to, let go of personal grievances for the sake of the larger community.
That's definitely easier said than done, though, right?
Yeah.
Especially when there are so many emotions involved.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and it feels like there's betrayal and injustice.
It can be very difficult,
Yeah.
but I believe it's possible.
Okay.
The church, after all, is a body of believers. And like anybody, it's capable of healing and restoration,
Yeah.
even after experiencing wounds and fractures.
That's encouraging.
It is.
But how do you actually do that? Like, what does reconciliation look like in these situations? What are the steps?
Well, I think it starts with acknowledging the hurt
Right.
and the pain
Yeah.
that's been caused.
Yeah.
Both sides need to be willing to express their feelings
Okay.
and to listen to each other's perspectives
Right.
without judgment,
Yeah.
without defensiveness.
So creating a safe space for dialogue where everyone feels heard.
Yeah. And it's important to remember that reconciliation is a process.
Yeah.
It's not a one-time event.
Right.
It takes time, patience,
Yeah.
and a willingness to work through all those complex emotions and issues that led to the conflict.
So it sounds like humility is key here.
It's crucial. It's
Yeah.
about recognizing that we're all flawed human beings.
Right.
We all make mistakes.
Yeah.
None of us has a monopoly on truth or righteousness.
This whole deep dive has really been highlighting the human element
It has.
within church communities.
Yeah.
We think of churches as these perfect institutions,
Yeah.
but in reality, they're made up of imperfect people who are all trying to figure things out
That's a great point.
as they go along.
And acknowledging that imperfection,
Yeah.
that shared humanity,
Yeah.
can be a really powerful first step.
Toward reconciliation.
Exactly.
So we've talked about dialogue, we've talked about humility, forgiveness.
Mm.
What other practical steps can churches take to foster this reconciliation and healing?
Well, one practical step is to seek mediation
Okay.
from outside sources.
Okay.
Sometimes bringing in a neutral third party,
Right.
someone who's not directly involved in the conflict,
Yeah.
can help facilitate communication
Okay.
and guide the parties toward a resolution.
Yeah, that makes sense because sometimes an outside perspective can help break through that deadlock
It can, yeah.
and provide some fresh insights.
Fresh perspective.
Yeah.
And it's also important to remember that reconciliation doesn't necessarily mean agreement.
Okay.
It's possible to disagree with someone
Right.
and still maintain a respectful,
Okay.
loving relationship.
So it's about coexisting peacefully even when there are differences of opinion.
Exactly. And that
Right.
requires a commitment to charity, assuming the best intentions in others.
Yeah.
And focusing on the things that unite us rather than those that divide us.
I like that. So this deep dive has really been insightful.
Great.
We've explored some really complex issues
Yeah.
of church governance, individual conscience, and this whole process of reconciliation.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are some key takeaways that you hope our listeners will walk away with?
Well, I hope listeners have gained a deeper appreciation for the complexities of these situations
Okay.
and the importance of approaching them with wisdom, grace, and a commitment to unity.
And hopefully a renewed sense of hope
Yeah.
that even in the midst of all this conflict, reconciliation and healing are possible.
yeah.
The church at its core is a community of love and forgiveness.
Right.
And that love has the power to overcome even the most deep-seated divisions.
Thank you for guiding us through this. This has been fascinating and thought-provoking.
It's been my pleasure.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Yes, thank you.
We hope this episode has sparked some insightful conversations
Yeah,
and encouraged you to think critically about these issues within your own communities.
absolutely.
Until next time, keep seeking truth, keep growing in grace, and keep diving deep.
Keep diving.
See you next time.